I was born in Bethlehem, and I don't know how many people you know who were born in Bethlehem. I know one other person who was born in Bethlehem, one other person, a kin whose initials are JC. And so this is really the rare opportunity and rare treat that we have to hear from someone who was born there, grew up there, lives there now, and does work for peace and reconciliation there. And he has great stories to share. He is the director and the founder and director of an organization called WIAM. His email, by the way, I don't have your card, so I can't pronounce the Arabic word. Okay, his email is hope, as in H-O-P-E, hope at alasla.org. So I said to him today, what does alasla mean? And he said, reconciliation. So his email is hope@reconciliation.org. And Michael Spath, who is the person who drove him here, he said he's the driver. He came and visited with us a couple months ago, did you? Talked to us about involved with Middle East peace from Indiana, and goes back and forth often. And the first person he said, who he met, right, and who got him excited about doing work within this land of the Holy One was Zoughbi Zoughbi. So there's a special relationship between these two. And also, Zoughbi is married to someone from South Bend, Indiana. So he frequently comes back over to the United States, has many people in his family who are from the United States living around the world, and so he comes back often, and this time we had the opportunity to have him come speak here. Welcome.
Thank you, Kelly, Kathy. I hope I can live up to your introduction. Well, it's a great privilege to be with you here. And I'm shivering with hope. I bring you greetings from your Christian sisters and brothers in the Holy Land, who are in that land for a long history. But the Christians in the Holy Land, as also Palestinians, are facing lots of difficulties. And the first question always when I come to the West, or even in the East, they ask me, since when you are a Christian? And my answer will be like my children taught me, my great-great-grandmother was the babysitter of Jesus. What does it mean to be a Christian in that area? I like the triangle of salt, yeast, and light. Salt, you need a little bit for your meal. And many times, our Lord Jesus Christ told us that we are the salt of the world, in a way or another. And it is, I like to see the Christians who have been living there for the last 2000 to continue to live there, despite of the difficulties and the challenges we face. In 1948, we were almost 22.2% of the historic land. Now we are less 1.5%. We are in a way an endangered species, Yes, we are not a quantitative presence, but we are qualitative, and we would like to see also a good number of us to be there. And not by chance I was born there. I was born in the little town called Bethlehem, and I'll come to this map later on, here in the West Bank, in Palestine. Many people think Bethlehem is in Israel, but Bethlehem is in Palestine. It was in historic Palestine before Israel was existed, and will continue to be in Palestine. 5 miles away from Jerusalem, but it's not easy to be in Jerusalem. It is easier for me to sleep overnight here rather than to have a permit to sleep in Jerusalem. You know, people are not allowed to go to Jerusalem, which is the heart of the West Bank. And Jerusalem was occupied in 1967, East Jerusalem. But Palestinians are not allowed, except in a few times on holidays, Christian or Muslim holidays, and for other reasons. Not all, some are. So in Jerusalem in 1922, according to British mandate census, shows that those who live in Jerusalem, the majority were Christians. 52% of the people in 1922 were Christians. Now, not more than 1,000 among, at least 500,000 in East and West Jerusalem. In West Jerusalem, Christians were also the majority before 1948. 1948, when Israel was proclaimed, established. 23,000 were kicked out in 1948. And of course, another 22,000 Muslims were kicked out from that area. So that's why we say, the salt we need to keep despite of all of these difficulties. I'm talking about the East. The East of, not the Pharisees, the East of transformation. As Palestinians, we are not sure where we are heading now. Community building or chaos. And WIAM, and I will talk more about WIAM, working for community building, not chaos. And in the past, there was revolution, and the umbrella for the Palestinian was the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. Now there is called a state, according to Oslo Accords, which happened in 1993. But, nowadays situation is difficult. The occupation is still there. There was a war on Gaza, that small area here, which is 365 square kilometer, has the population of 1.8%, 1.8 million Palestinians living in 365 square kilometers. And you know what is the number of Christians there? 13. One was killed in the last attack, so the number is in a way or another. And so there is war, there is land confiscation in the West Bank and so on. So we are not sure, again, are we heading for statehood? This is what we dream for, or what is going on in the Arab world, in the Middle East, from chaos. We work for community building. So we need the East to transform us. The East of transformation, to transform ourselves, to transform our neighbors, to transform the people in general who live there. And always the challenge is how to transform the garbage of anger or the garbage of hate into flower or tree of compassion. Because you are living there and there is always constant anger. If you want to take a shower, maybe while you are taking the shower, there is no water. Israeli government takes 90% of our water, and we have it once every 3 weeks at least to collect in our water tanks. So we know how to recycle water. So there is anger. You cannot go to Jerusalem. If you travel in the West Bank, there are at least 600 checkpoints in the West Bank, not to cross to Israel. in the West Bank. And, today Michael was really very gracious to drive me. I don't know how many kilometers or how many miles, but I would say we would have witnessed 10 or to 20 checkpoints. And sometimes you are able to cross it, sometimes they will let you back, and sometimes they close it. So in home, we measure our distances by checkpoints, not by miles, And so we need this east to transform despite of all the anger. And of course, the light is very important, to be the light for people. And by the way, when I talk about these situations, I'm not against Jews. I'm against the occupation. The occupation is evil, and the occupation doesn't demoralize us, but also demoralize Jews. So we are against the system, and we separate between the system and the people. I think Muslims, Christians, and Jews in that area belong to Abraham family. We are part of the Abrahamic family. And many times I look at this conflict as the dysfunctional family of Abraham. Family feud is worse than any other feud. And in a way or another, we are destined to be there together, and we should sort out a way to live together. So as a Christian, yes, I believe in the personal salvation, but also I believe in the social gospel. This is very important. How to be as a Christian. And Christianity there, I learned it also not only from the Holy Bible, but from the oral history of my ancestor, from my mother, from my father. I remember I was, how many years? 4 years old when the 67 war happened, when Israel took the remnant of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. I was really 4 years old. And as a child, at that time, since I became in the 20s, a Jew for me is a settler and a soldier. Settler, a person who comes and takes land and builds legal settlements in the West Bank, as you saw in the last one. Many settlements are around here. But my mother taught me a lot as a Christian, and also taught me nonviolence. So I remember in 1967, we had caves. And many of our neighbors took refuge in these caves. There's airplanes, tanks, everywhere. And I don't know how many were in our caves. Because caves, throughout the history, were a place where people, hide and seek refuge. And one guy came with a gun because he was afraid, and it was a British mandate, gun to the cave. And my mother said, either you or the cave. And this is where my first introduction to nonviolence in practice. This is where the adoption of the less traveled road, to adhere to nonviolence. I learned from my mother.